Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite tanking team in the Bay Area. On today's episode, the Sharks lose again. And what should you be watching out for as the Sharks season starts to wind down? So all that and more on this episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. We're part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And the Sharks lose again to the St. Louis Blues. So we're going to talk about the game. The small takeaways, the takeaway from this game. Erik Karlsson, of course, tied Brent Burns' franchise record for points by a defenseman. And then we're going to talk about some of the bigger things to kind of just to keep an eye on and root for, not just to tank the standings, but other things to root for as the Sharks season starts to dwindle down here. We're down to 16 games left, which I can't believe it's already. We're getting to this time of the season. So without further ado, let's get into the Blues game. Let's start with Erik Karlsson scoring a goal tonight. And then, of course, tying Brent Burns' franchise record now. 83 points for defensemen, 66 games, which is pretty incredible. If you had told me this was going to happen before the season started, I would have told you that the Sharks would probably be in playoff contention. But alas, the Sharks, of course, are not. So Karlsson and Couture, the only two Sharks who have played every game for the Sharks this year. I know Hertl, 2 games were a suspension, and then 1 game was the birth of his child. Again, that's fine. I'm just telling you the facts. Those are the only 2 players who have suited up every game for the Sharks this year. But it's pretty awesome to see Karlsson continue to produce, even with how abysmal this team is and how offensively challenged this team is. Karlsson, I've said it all year long, Karlsson's amazing. It's going to be really sad when the Sharks trade Erik Karlsson this summer because you don't get to watch Erik Karlsson do what he does on a nightly basis. But 20 goals for this season now, which is just absolutely insane for him. He's having a special season, and he should be the Norris front runner. What he's doing, I think what you putting into context of what he's doing for his team compared to all the other defensemen. And I know people are going to come at me and say, well, he doesn't actually play defense. The way he plays defense is by keeping the other team from playing offense. So he plays keep away, right? And he produces points. And plus minus is a terrible number. Don't come at me with your plus minus points. Even if you do want to go plus minus, he's -8 for this year, which is, the same as Jacob McDonald, who's been on the Sharks for 15 games. Erik Karlsson's played every game. Mario Ferraro, -21, if you really want to play that game, the plus minus thing. Anyway, so Erik Karlsson having an outstanding season, and we'll see if he gets to 100 points. That will be ridiculous. If he gets to 100, I think you have to give him the Norris, just because, again, hasn't been done since 91, 92, or is it 91, 92, or 92, 93? Anyway, Brian Leetch was the last one to do it. So it's been a long time. Stats for this game, pretty evenly matched, especially at 5-on-5. Shot attempts were 46-39 in favor of the Sharks. Actual shots was 24-23 in favor of the Sharks. Scoring chances 25-24 in favor of the Sharks. High danger chances 13-10 in favor of the Sharks. Again, this is all 5-on-5. And then expected goals for was 2.66 to 4-2 in favor of the Sharks. But the Sharks power play continues to struggle, as it has for basically kind of the second since the calendar turned to 2023. And then with Timo Meier leaving, the power play is basically non-existent right now. The Sharks have kind of too many passers and not enough shooters on the power play, right? I mean, you think about it, right? Eklund, kind of passer, Barabanov, passer, Hertl and Couture, kind of the like, we can score the kind of the ugly, greasy goals. They just don't have that, like, and then Karlsson is running the whole thing, right? They just don't have that guy who can just shoot the living snot out of the puck right now. And that's been kind of a big reason for the power play's failings right now. Corey from The Athletic tweeted out that William Eklund has already played more power play minutes in the year 2023 than Kevin Labanc. Labanc was not played very much tonight. When I checked, I think he had 4 shifts at one point, the start of the third period. He ended up with 7 shifts for 4:59 time on ice. Yeah. So, yeah, that's not very good. Yeah, like I said, Kevin Labanc's not going to be on this team next year. He's just not. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Kevin Labanc's just not going to be on this. As long as David Quinn is the head coach, Kevin Labanc will not be on this team next year. They will trade him or whatever they have to do to get rid of him. So, yeah. But Eklund, another solid game. Definitely has his mistakes, and he's going to have those as a guy who's played, less than 15 NHL games now. But he's really close to scoring that first one. You can see it, like, it's as soon as he scores that first one, I think the dam's going to break for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on a little mini run of goals. But and he did that with the Barracuda as well, right? And then by the time he left the Barracuda, he was basically kind of a point per game type of player the last 3-4 weeks for the Barracuda before getting called up. So tonight, though, we're seeing David Quinn trusting William Eklund. He played 22 minutes, which was the most amount of time among the forwards. 3 minutes of power play time, even got over a minute of shorthanded time. I think that was near the end of the game when the score was kind of, but again, putting him in, letting him kind of feel things out here and getting him used to playing in all different situations. So things we love to see there. But Kaapo Kahkonen, I thought, had a solid game. That third goal, a bit of a fluke, and I'm sure he would like that one back. But he did make some saves, and we'll talk about Kaapo Kahkonen here more in a little bit. But good to see him kind of have a bit of a bounce back night, especially after what happened on Tuesday against Colorado. But like I said, after that game, it doesn't matter who was back there. The Avalanche were on a mission to just destroy people, and unfortunately, it was just the Sharks' turn that night. So before we get into what I'm looking forward to as we start to wind down here the season, looking at some players who are close to maybe hitting some milestones, and then just kind of other things to keep an eye on as you go down the stretch. Certain guys play, which kind of the guys I'm looking at here. Do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, we're past the midway point of the NBA season. Playoffs are going to be here in a couple weeks. It's the perfect time to download the FanDuel app, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 as bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 and bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so what should you, the experienced Sharks fan, what should you be looking for heading down the stretch here as the Sharks 16 games left. Other than Tankathon, that's the first thing, right? You should be checking the Tankathon every night after the game, after all the games are done, to see where the Sharks are. But so they have 3 games left. Sharks, 3 of their 16 games left against bottom dwellers, so teams in the bottom 10. They play the Blue Jackets on Tuesday. They play the Canucks, and they play the Coyotes. Those are the last 3 of the kind of bottom dweller teams. Everybody else is either in the middle or in a playoff position here. So plenty of opportunities for the Sharks to make up ground by not winning games here going forward. So they kind of got through their soft schedule here, playing some teams like the Caps, who are kind of in that, they're in the bottom 10 right now, right? You play the Blues a couple times here. You got the Wild, you don't have Kaprizov on Saturday. And then you have the then you have the Blue Jackets, right, on Tuesday. So get through these games, you're looking pretty good. So especially because the Blue Jackets I talked about on Tuesday or Wednesday's episode, Blue Jackets here, they're going through their soft schedule now on this Pacific trip. So chance for them to kind of earn some points here and put the Sharks in position to be number 1 overall heading down the stretch. So yes, Tankathon. But other things I am paying attention to, and I'm going to start actually with a defenseman, Nikolai Knyzhov. So he's come back into the lineup, especially with Jacob McDonald being out, right? Radim Šimik. I would assume Radim Šimik's not playing anymore this year, especially if he's having issues based off his concussions. He's had 2 concussions this year, and if he's still having lingering issues, you can just shut him down for the rest of the year. Like, you do not need to bring Radim Šimik back this year. But I want to see how Knyzhov does at the end of the stretch. I think he's played really well in the couple games back. We've seen him and Karlsson. We saw that partnership a couple years ago when Knyzhov broke out in his rookie season. And just, again, the story of him coming back from everything he's gone through, right? I think he had 2 sports hernias. He had an infection, Achilles tear. Like, it's pretty crazy what he's come back through. And if he can kind of really get back to form here and really show it down the stretch run, as I talked about before, are you a question that needs to be answered this offseason? Or are you an answer to a question for the Sharks? And we don't know if Erik Karlsson will be here next year, but finding that partner for Erik Karlsson, Knyzhov, he can be that answer, right? We've seen the Mario Ferraro Karlsson partnership does not work, right? Jacob Megna was a perfect partner with him because Jacob Megna would stay home and let Erik Karlsson cook, right? If Knyzhov can be that strong, sturdy physical defensive partner for Erik Karlsson, again, don't know if Erik Karlsson will be here, but it's not like Knyzhov can't do that for whatever offensive defenseman that you have that you can partner him up with. So I want to see Knyzhov make it through the end of the season healthy, continue to kind of build up those minutes. So, he played in his first game back, he played 14. Now he's up to 16. So he was last among defensemen, but it was, Knyzhov played 16-17, Pouliot played 16-19, and Vlasic played 16-41. So it's not like he was, kind of trailing by a lot there. So want to see how Knyzhov have a nice, strong end to this season and build some confidence going into this offseason healthy. You don't have to do rehab, right? You can focus on training and getting ready for next year's season and be a full-time NHL defenseman like we saw from him his rookie year. So he's one of the big things I'm looking towards at the end of the season. So next, Kaapo Kahkonen, right? Right around the All-Star break, we saw Kaapo Kahkonen play some of his best hockey for the Sharks. Won some games that the Sharks probably didn't have any business winning. But the past couple games have been reverted back to what we've seen at the beginning of the season, right? Letting in some soft goals. I'm not pinning anything from the Colorado game on him. That game was, again, the difference between a Stanley Cup contender and the worst team in the NHL. Colorado was angry. They lost a few in a row, and they came out and they put it, like I said, if you had Hasek, you could have had Hasek and Patrick Waugh both playing that, and the Colorado was just going to find a way that night to just pound the Sharks. So, but I want to see Kaapo Kahkonen can, a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a dip these last couple games. Can he return to what we've seen from him in stretches, especially around the All-Star break and coming out of the All-Star break? Again, I know the blue line's been a hot mess in front of him. A lot of guys kind of coming in and out, et cetera, et cetera. Little to no run support in terms of offense from the Sharks. But can you see Knyzhov, or it's not Knyzhov, can you see Kaapo Kahkonen really, build his confidence and make a claim for the Sharks' number one goaltender heading into the offseason? We know the Sharks are going to be in the market for another goalie, whether they bring James Reimer back, which, again, I don't think James Reimer's a great guy. He's done, everything you've asked for him for the Sharks. But I think, it's time to turn to somebody else. Somebody, again, a veteran, somebody's, 30, 31, come in, sign him to a 2-year deal type of situation. Just like you did with James Reimer, go find another version of James Reimer who can back up Kaapo Kahkonen. And then eventually if Eetu Makiniemi or whomever is ready to take his job, you just have another guy who's going to be a good soldier for you, especially in these lean years for the Sharks. So let's see if Kaapo Kahkonen can be that guy for the Sharks, be that number one goaltender who can start 45, 50 games for you next year, and you don't have another question mark going forward. So, and then finally, William Eklund's play, right? You could argue the most important player for the Sharks for the rest of the season. Seeing him continue to develop, building the confidence, learning from his mistakes, right? William Eklund is going to make mistakes. Every player makes mistakes. Every rookie makes mistakes. I want to see him continue to build and learn from those mistakes and continue to add to his tool bag, taking everything he's learned in the AHL, taking everything he's learned in the NHL, improving, building that confidence. And that way, heading into this offseason, one, he can continue to work on building up his strength, becoming more NHL-ready body. And then two, he knows exactly where he fits in with his team going forward next year, especially if you assume Hertl, Eklund is going to be aligned with, we'll have plenty of time to talk about forwards that we want to play with those guys going in the summer, but you assume that's going to be kind of the line going forward. Building that chemistry with Hertl, building that chemistry with the rest of the guys. And like I said, learning from those mistakes. So that way, that's what gets you in the doghouse, right? Is if you make a mistake, that's fine. Especially this time of the year, right? Your Sharks are going to make mistakes. Eklund's going to make mistakes, but not repeating those mistakes. That's how you get benched or sent down the lineup and stuff like that. So just building that confidence, getting that first goal, getting that monkey off his back, scoring, seeing that first one get potted. Because I think once that first one goes in, we're going to see, like, if Eklund scores, I really think Eklund scores on Saturday against the Wild. He's been so close several times. Plus, I'm going to be there. I want to see Eklund's first goal in person. Just come on, please. Eklund scores. Would you be surprised if he ends up with 5 goals in the last 16 games? So let's see him get that first one. Before we finish up, talk about some milestones, kind of some scoring milestones where some guys are sitting at down their, the stretch run. So something you can root for as the Sharks continue to add more losses. Do want to let you guys know about the Locked On Game to Game. So thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Now for your second listen, go check out the Locked On Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. All right, so heading down the stretch here, there are some guys getting close to some milestones, whether it be points, goals, all that fun stuff. So of course, the big one is Erik Karlsson, right? He needs 17 more points in the last 16 games to put him over 100 points for the season. So that's the big one we're rooting for, right? If Erik Karlsson gets to 100 points, I don't want to say it locks up the doors, but it makes that argument that much better, right? Doing something that hasn't been done in 30 years by a defenseman on this poo-poo. You've watched this team all season. I've watched this team all season. Just imagine where this team would be without Erik Karlsson. This team might have like 7 wins to its name. This is been a horrible team. So can you imagine a summer where you win the first overall pick in Connor Bedard and Erik Karlsson wins the Norris? What for the brand for Locked On Sharks would be flying high right there. So we can root for Karlsson to continue to accumulate these points, right? The Sharks are gonna, like tonight, perfect night, right? Sharks scored 2 goals. Erik Karlsson has a point on one of them. So Erik Karlsson continues to be the engine for this team. So if the Sharks lose every game 4-2, if Karlsson has a point, at least a point, that's what we're going for, right? So he needs 17 points in the last 16 games to get that nice magical 100. He would need he'd need almost like 20 assists to pass Joe Thornton's assist record for the team. I don't think he's going to get that, especially with how bad the Sharks are at right now with actual scoring. So some other guys here. So Tomas Hertl needs 2 more goals to hit 20 for this season. He's at 50 points for the year, or 51 points after tonight's game. So he's at 51 points. So 9 points for the rest of the season. So he needs 2 goals and 9 points, and that'll put him at 20 goals and 60 points for the year. Logan Couture needs 3 goals. That'll put him at 25 goals for this season. Just kind of a nice reminder where so that would be his most goals since what year was that? Says he hasn't had 25 goals since this, or 16, 17, 18, 19. So 18, 19, he had 27. So Logan Couture gets back to 25. Pretty solid season for Logan Couture. Especially again, Logan Couture can, I think especially since Barabanov's been around, we've seen Logan Couture kind of be a much more effective player with Barabanov on his line. So speaking of Barabanov, so he's over 40 points for the year. With tonight, he's at 29 assists. So 1 more assist will get him to 30 for this season. He has 13 goals this year. So very good chance that Barabanov is going to be a 15 goals, 30 assist guy for $2.5 million. That feels like a really big steal for him. Who else here? Let's look at some goals. Guys who could be double-digit guys. Svechnikov. So he's at 8 goals this season. He needs 2 more goals, and that'll put him at double digits. Steven Lorentz needs 3 to put him at double digits for this season. So a couple, pretty close there. Have a few these double-digit guys. Poor Nick Bonito. Nick Bonito had more goals than assists this year. Sorry. Same thing. Nico Sturm, 13 goals for Nico Sturm. So 2 more would put him at 15. Nico Sturm has 21 points. So 2 more assists for Sturm would put him at double-digit assists, which would, pretty solid season for him as well. So actually, he only needs his most in a season is 11. So he just needs 3 assists to tie his season high for assists in a season. So we'll see with Noah Gregor on that line how that's going to go. And then big one for James Reimer, right? He famously has never had a save percentage under 900. He's at 895 right now. So he's got some work to do to try to get it over, get that over that 900 for him. So I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. So Reimer, he needs a little work there. So Kaapo Kahkonen needs 2 wins to get to 10 for the year. I honestly don't know if that one's going to happen. But So Sharks have a couple guys here. Again, I'm going to root for the losses, but you can still root for some of these guys maybe hitting some milestones for going forward. So big ones, right? Erik Karlsson basically needs a point per game. So he needs 17 points last 16 to get to 100. Hertl needs 9 points in the last 16 games to get to 60 points for the season. Couture, he would need 7 points to get to 60 for this season as well. Both those guys, 20 or 25 goals for those guys. So couple very attainable milestones for some of these guys going down those stretch, so we can root for that stuff. And then we'll see again, William Eklund getting that first goal, and hopefully, I think five sounds about. Once he gets that first one, I think like I said, I think 5 feels really realistic. So that's going to be it for me tonight. We'll be back on Monday, recapping everything that went down in for San Jose hockey this weekend. Got 2 Barracuda games this week, right? We have Friday. We have 2 big games for Barracuda against Bakersfield, who they're trying to catch for the playoffs. So big 4 points here for the Barracuda this weekend. Sharks play the Wild. I'll be there I'll be in attendance with the fans. So I'm gonna enjoy that as well. Hopefully that's the William Eklund first goal game, right? I want to see it in person. So, but yes. So yeah, big on Monday, more draft. Got two draft profiles in the books. One of them is the big one. So the prize that we're all shooting for. So that draft profile will be dropping probably on Tuesday next week. And plenty of other stuff as we continue to wind down the season here and start to shift into off-season mode, where we'll, I'm going to spend a whole week looking at kind of Mike Greer's first season, looking at his trades, looking at his signings, looking at his draft class. Plenty of stuff going to be doing that. I'm going to want to follow along. We're going to, especially as the Barracuda, we're going to start to get some reinforcements here. So we're going to have more Barracuda coverage. Hopefully Bystad is on a plane here soon, coming to San Jose, so he can help the Barracuda. So yes, plenty of good stuff coming up. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts. You can watch on YouTube. Really close to 1,600 subscribers. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And until Monday, bye, friends.